Ever wonder how real change happens? Ubuntu Narratives podcast uncovers the extraordinary stories of ordinary Africans building a more just and equal world. In each episode, we sit down with a change maker who reveals the triumphs, challenges, and practical steps that you can take to make a difference in your own community. Tune in and find the inspiration to act. Welcome to Season 2 of the Ubuntu Narratives podcast. In this series, we explore the realities, challenges, and possibilities of gender equality in African workplaces. Tune in and find your inspiration to act. Hi, friends. Welcome to Ubuntu Narratives podcast. I'm your host, Christine Butegwa. And today we're exploring feminist leadership, a leadership style that is reshaping African workplaces. We'll unpack how feminist values can transform leadership from you as a leader to the boardroom to the whole organization. And I'm excited to have our guest, Jackie Asiimwe, the CEO of CivSource Africa. Jackie Asiimwe is a pioneering feminist, lawyer, and social development thought leader with almost 30 years of experience in the international development sector. She's the founder and chief executive officer of CivSource Africa, a philanthropy advisory firm that works to reshape the practice of giving in Africa by centering generosity, feminist values, and community-led development. Jackie is widely recognized for her leadership in feminist philanthropy, connecting traditional giving practices with African feminist movements to empower women and marginalized communities. Her work challenges extractive aid models and promotes African agency in development and philanthropy. Jackie's voice is a powerful one in conversations about feminist leadership, and she continues to inspire leaders across Africa by demonstrating how feminist principles can transform boardrooms, organizations, and personal leadership journeys. Welcome, Jackie. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you so much.
So that your profile is really exciting, and you're doing such exciting work on the African continent.
Thank you.
We are really happy to have you as our
It's
guest.
my pleasure. Absolutely.
And I wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself. This is you at a professional level.
Yeah.
Who are you, Jackie, at a personal level?
At a personal level.
Yes.
Wow. So one of the what is the word? One of the things I've come to embrace about myself is I am a nomad. I am at my best when I am traveling.
Oh.
I don't know how to sit still. I think in my life, way back when I was young, I must have been one of those children who was put in a naughty corner all the time because they couldn't sit still.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to, and when I say I had to embrace it, it is because it literally was that. First of all, you're taught that to be still is to be a good girl, and we all want to be good girls, guys. And so when you can't be still, you quickly assume there's something wrong with you. COVID was hard because all of us were like, stay where you are.
Yes.
It's like, guys, I miss the road. Yes. I miss going in wide open places. And I found that, especially when I was stressed in high stress situations, when I needed to calm myself, to ground myself, to think over a thing, I needed to go on the road and just drive and drive. That's what I'm saying. That and yeah, for you know, sometimes when you're a wife or mother, your places like stay at home. Where are you going?
Where are you
Stay
going?
home.
Yeah, it's something burning your
yes,
feet.
it's something about me that I have had to say, this is who you are and it's okay. Some people will like it, some people will not like it, and it's okay. So I'm a nomad. I also embrace the attribute of philanthropist. Why? Because I have quickly found it's not about the number of zeros on the check that you write. Rather, it is the love of humanity. And I was raised in a home where we were taught generosity. My mother especially, we watched her give and give and give. My dad too. And so that is the life I know. That is the life. And so when I call myself a philanthropist, it is because one of the ways in which I have decided to live on this earth is through giving and through generosity. Also to know that generosity isn't always about money. We've made it about money, or the dominant narrative has made it a financial conversation, but it is also time, it is treasure, it is many things. And so when I call myself a philanthropist, for me, it is taking back the word. And then, of course, the big F word, feminist. And that too, as I was thinking of this conversation that we're going to have today, is a journey. And I think that sometimes people have been made to choose, either declare that you are, or if you're not.
You're not.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, but we understand that for some, it's a journey of many things you do not know, many things they have to unlearn. And so by the time I speak it, I want to know that that is fully who I am. I'm not pretending. I'm not saying it because it's the it word. No, that when I say I'm a feminist, it's because it's who I am. It's not a word I'm attaching to myself.
And that's very important.
Yeah.
I think, especially in Africa, in Uganda, the label or the identity feminist has so much controversial connotations.
Absolutely.
And I wonder if you can speak to when did you say I'm comfortable
wearing
this word?
So, and then finally, the last descriptor is I'm a Christian. And one of my dear friends, feminist colleagues and mentors, Hilda Tadria, when she was actively involved in MEMPRO, used to invite me to do a session on, can a Christian be a feminist? Yeah, because somehow it seemed those two things were contradictory. Yeah. And the first time she invited me, I said, you know what? Actually, Jesus was the chief feminist. And for me, the way he treated women, the way he gave space and place to women, the way he had them in different ways, that, for me, is an example of what a feminist should do. But yeah, so when did I feel... First of all, we were introduced to feminism when I was working in FIDA. FIDA is the Uganda Association of Women Lawyers. And there's a time when Akina Mama did a training with and for us in Jinja, I remember, Hotel Triangle. And we were contending with, were we a feminist organization? And having never heard the word, having never I was a much younger lawyer then. It was an interesting experience, coming to understand the terms and coming to really wrestle with, were we a feminist organization? And so starting to hear that and starting to hear about the Aulis, I never attended one, but I used to be in conversation with those that attended the African Women Leadership Institute that was also run by Akina Mama, I believe.
Yes.
And that is, I think, where they were, deeply went into the theory and the practice of it. And so hearing from those that would attend, I'm like, I think that's what I am. And then I think that the thing that finally clicked for me was one day I saw the bumper sticker of Joe Oloka and Sylvia Tamale's pickup truck that they used to drive. And it was at the Makerere University Law School. I don't know what I had gone to do there. But on the bumper sticker was the phrase, feminism is the radical idea that women are human. And I said, that's my sentence. That is the one I will stick to.
Yes.
Right? And so that is, when I say I'm a feminist, that is the simplest explanation. That idea, just even the idea. Because for some, they can't even contend, which is sad. They can't even contend that woman is human, right? And that human, therefore, meaning that she has right of access to all the human experience as she wishes and chooses. Sadly, to this day, we still debase women. We treat them as less than, as secondary citizens, as all the things, right? Their rights are thought of least and later. It is sad that we are that way. But that for me, that phrase, I locked into it. And when I say I'm a feminist, that's what I'm trying to express, that women are human, just as human as anybody else walking on the face of the earth.
Fantastic. And, I remember...
To your point, this was a journey over several years, right? So maybe if someone had met me at the beginning of my journey and said, are you I might have said no, because I wasn't or wasn't yet comfortable, at least claiming it publicly. Yeah.
And people, and it's important to note that people come to their identity as a feminist in different ways.
Absolutely.
And like you're saying, it's a journey.
Just like our come to Jesus moments are as different as they come.
As they come. Because I know for me, having a mom who was a feminist, my mother being a feminist, having worked in the women's movement and seeing her play it out in, at a personal level.
Yes.
For me, there was a no-brainer. Even by the time I was in university, I knew my passion, my heart burned for women and for social justice. And just knowing the word to put on it, the feminist word maybe came later, but absolutely. I knew before that is where I want to be, to promote women, to show that women are equal beings and they deserve to be treated as human beings. But we come to it in various ways. Yes. So that's when we come to feminist leadership. How would you define feminist leadership?
I also try to look for a definition. I don't think I have one yet, but for me, when I think about what feminist leadership is, it is the knowledge, awareness, and use of power. When I say knowledge, of course, we all learn about power. We all see power. It is visible all around us all the time. But knowing it in the sense of the reflective practice. So, for example, when you stand as a young girl in your primary school as a prefect, you might not have the knowledge that when I stand in front of my fellow pupils as a prefect, this is what this power means. That's what I mean by knowledge, right? You know you have power, but you have the knowledge of it. And I don't know if my idea is translating, right? And so as a feminist, when you have the awareness, when you come into awareness of the potency, the potential, the problematic of power, I think then you deal with it differently in your personal space, in your public space, because, and I think that is the world that we're trying to remake, disrupt, because power does a lot of things. It does a lot of good when held well, when held with and not over. And I know that in feminist praxis, we talk about the different powers. So it is learning that even the moderation of it, what power do I come into a room with? How do I hold it? How do I restrain it? and all that awareness that not, and it's not just a mental awareness for me. I think it is also a heart awareness, right? And so we talk about the power of love, for example, in feminist practice, and other such powers that people think, why would you even talk about love in a workspace? Like, what is that? Or in a public space, or the power of what we think is domestic, right? And we would tell women that, no, when you're a housewife, don't just say, I'm just a housewife. Understand the power that brings, or the power that can bring into a public space, or the power that you even hold in your private space called a home. So for me, that is what I would define feminist leadership as.
Okay. At Jabali Consulting, we're launching Lead Boldly, a gender transformative CEO toolkit, a practical guide for CEOs, founders, HR leaders, and executive teams in the private sector who want to move beyond policies and actually transform their workplaces. Because gender inequality at work is not just about individuals, it's about systems, power, and everyday leadership decisions. Our Jabali Consulting 5-pillar approach guides you from leadership mindset and power analysis to inclusive leadership, safer culture, and market impact. It's designed to help you strengthen leadership pipelines, improve retention, and boost ESG performance by transforming your systems. If that sounds like your next step, join the waiting list on our website. That is www.jabaliconsulting.com, or click the description link below. Joining the waiting list entitles you to getting early bird discount, receiving exclusive insights, and priority booking on our advisory opportunities. Let's move from intention to real change in our workplaces and businesses. That the awareness and the use of it,
yes,
and understanding, because you may be aware, but do you understand the magnitude of power? And I think an important thing is that it's also about dismantling power, because the society is so used to one type of power, the power over, the domination. To be powerful, I must dominate over. I must oppress.
I must silence everything I don't know or I don't like.
But feminist leadership is about how do we dismantle that and put in place different expressions of power, like you're saying, love, collaboration, inclusion. And how would are there any differences between feminist leadership and more traditional leadership styles?
Even as I answer that, I want to say that let's also understand that because societies are always morphing and changing, I don't know that there's a fixed in time, this is what it is going to be for all time.
Okay.
So with that proviso, yes, it is different in the sense, like you said, it is trying to say, what about the way we've done power? Whether it is in the recognition of who has the right to a table, whose voice we will listen to, where resources will go and flow, who we think of or not think of in terms of inclusion. I think when I think of traditional power and feminist leadership, that traditional power is almost in its expression very linear, very, you either go with us or not at all, like very, very boxed in a sense, very patriarchal, very domineering. And it's, for the longest time, that is the power that people know because it's how we grew up, it's what we saw, it's what we experienced, whether it was from institutions or governments or home, right? This domination. But feminist leadership comes in to say that, no, we can actually turn this on its head. And that's why I'm saying that you look around the table and say, who is not yet at the table? Who is not yet served? Who is at the table but really not heard, right? It enables one to ask who else, what else, how else, because it is, it centers caring, it centers compassion and empathy. The things that previously were called soft, and those are for the home and those are for your nurturing role, to say, no, that too is power, and it can reshape the way we do community, we do society, we do the world. Yeah.
And if you come to the workplace, from your experience as a leader, how do you bring feminist leadership into the workplace as a leader yourself? How do you practice it as a leader at individual level? And how do you see it practiced in various levels, the board, the organization, your management team? How have you kind of embodied that?
So the first one that is very, very key to me and that I practice a lot is shared power. I'm not the smartest in the room. I shouldn't be. And therefore, what I practice a lot is shared power. Just yesterday, and I don't know when this will be listened to, so what the yesterday will be, but every last Thursday of the month.
Yeah. Yesterday was 28th
28th,
May?
Yes, 28th May. We hold a staff meeting. I love it that I've never led a staff meeting.
Yes.
And yet previously it was like, and we do still hear it, right? That it's only the CEO that leads. And most recently I was hearing, they don't allow the rest of us to talk. So it's really, you call it a staff meeting, but it's you reading from, you're not speaking at us. And then after that, it's over and we go. And that is a staff meeting. But I love it that I've never led, and it's rotational, right? And it's from all over, up and down the team. I love it when our newest member has led all the way to the one that has been with us longest. Like it is without, it's not about rank. It's about sharing. Because, and why do I love it? Because one Thursday, someone will make us do an exercise. Another Thursday, because when you share power, you bring into the space and maximize the gifting and ideas that people bring. So I am very, very big on sharing power. We've done it also at my level. We have a practice that is called rotational leadership. And by that, I meant that...
So like at CEO level.
At CEO level, yes. That yes, for now I may hold the title and the contract CEO, but in order to prepare both myself and the team for a time where I will not be, how can we experience others leading the team so that I too am learning not just to let go, but I'm also modeling for my team that I can also follow. Right? And so, choosing one of the team to serve for a period of 4 months as CEO, and I to report to that person. When it's done in the fourth quarter where we're doing performance evaluation, that person will evaluate my performance, like to really model that power is also about followership, right? But like I said, it's also, for me, feminist power is, if you're not building a bench of leaders, then what are you doing? Again, because you're not the smartest in the room and you're not the only one in the room.
And everyone can be leaders.
And can be leaders. And that's where we start in our organization to say, all of you from the gate to the last desk, all of us are leaders. So how does leadership show up? And that's a conversation I have with everybody. How does leadership show up at your front desk? And how can you lead us at your very best at your front desk? In your kitchen, Richard, how can you lead us, right? And so first of all, the idea that all of us are leaders and that leadership is shared. So that is one that I'm really very critical about. And then the other is accountability. Because it's a big one. A big one, yes, a big one.
Yes.
And that it is up and down, right? Because usually accountability flows upward.
Yeah.
But it's to try and create systems where it is circular, right? So some express it through a 360 degree. We've been for the longest time trying to experiment, right? There's what you learn in your human resource schools, indeed. But then there's when we want to experience it as a feminist way of doing performance evaluation. What does that look like? How is performance defined? How is it measured? How is it made accountable?
You give space to learn and shape your own
shape
practice.
It, yes, like nothing is fixed in that sense.
That's also part of feminist leadership. Giving space to learn.
And
because every organization is different.
Absolutely.
But so long as it is to the benefit of everyone and inclusion. That's very okay. That's good.
So the accountability in I know that one of the texts that I lean into, even as an organization, is the African Charter on Feminist Principles, and it has in there a chapter on, how do we lead, how do we run our organizations, and I know that they trumpet excellence. It is not sacrificed. In fact, it is one of the things that we aspire to, and part of that excellence is accountability. So reading that charter again and again and saying, okay, are we, not just me, are we creating a space where accountability is not a rumor,
but it's
that is
practiced.
Actually practiced.
Have you found something that's different from the 360 that most people do?
Most people do the 360. That's the one we're experimenting with. I keep going to the HR manager and saying, what else? How else? What else? How else? Sometimes we will change the questions. Sometimes we will change who sits at that table. Can I ask in on that 360? Can I create my own 360, right? Knowing that, yes, it is person I report to, or what do others in other departments say about me? Just trying to remake what that looks like, But the other accountability then that I do when the team meets is, this is what I've been doing with my time, right? Because here I'm leading you based on A, B, C, D. And in fact, I think I picked that up from, there's a feminist leader that I used to follow. She was in Oxfam. I can't remember her name, but I know that she had a whole matrix about how she would report both to her team and to her board. And I loved the way that she was very detailed, right? Again, because it's often assumed that people report upward.
And yes,
what
and
the
then
CEO
the
does,
CEO,
we just hope she does
CEO
work, right?
reports to the board, but not to
not
the
always,
staff. Yes.
And maybe not to the detail.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's first said, no, because I lead you and I serve you. This is how I've been using my time. And
so the leader is accountable to the team as well.
Yes.
Okay.
We also have question time. The first time I tried it and I sat there and there was silence, like, how else can we do this? So at one time it was a talk show, and one of the younger ladies had collected questions. And so she was asking me, oh my goodness, I sweated plasma, but it was like, no, lean into it because you're showing that you're not above.
Yes.
Being asked the hard questions.
And also that you don't know all the answers.
Yes. And I did have to confess severally during that conversation, like, I don't know. And that's why we're a team. Like, give me your ideas as well. What do you think? How should we do it? So that is the other. Self-care is the other that we're very, very, very strong about. The self-care and communal care. So we did start a practice, and I know that several feminist organizations do it now. That collective break in the middle of the year, we started it just during the time of COVID. And we said, let's experiment it. And then I had a few others, were also doing it.
So when you say collective break, do you all go on leave?
Yes, we all... Again, for those that work in the non-profit space, already you are very few people doing very many things. And often there's the guilt attached to, even when I have leave, and we do have the leave because we have to comply to the laws of the country. But there's often this guilt of there's a lot of work. We're a 2-person department.
Yes.
If I leave my
to take on all the work. Yes.
So people often feel guilty even to take it. And so understanding that, we said, okay, how about if all of us are off our desks?
So you're not feeling guilty. Okay.
So we've been practicing a week off in the middle of the year. Of course, we have the end of year break and we make it a month, and we say whether or not you've taken your leave, it won't even be deducted off your leave. We will all take a break. This year we're experimenting with 2 weeks in the middle of the year. So we are all, we keep reminding people, please clear you must go and rest.
Good, yes.
But no, also ensuring that people are actually supported to take leave, working, flexi hours. I was reading a beautiful article about 2-3 days ago that work was supposed to support. Life was supposed to support work, but we've tipped the scale
work
where
is supposed to support your life, and not life supporting work.
Yes. And so I think that's what feminist leadership reminds us, that the people that you're serving with and you're serving as a leader are whole people, right? And it's been interesting also me going through the various seasons of life, right? To understand that, yes, in this season, I have several staff members dealing with older parents. And what will that mean? Sometimes I need to take a day, 2, 3, 4 to go sit with my mother who is undergoing a procedure. Or there are people in their reproductive age. My child is sick, my child is not well. They are experiencing a thing, I need to be at home more. And it's like, it's okay. Understanding that when you do that, you actually produce more. What did the old world teach us? Productivity is when I'm seeing you at your desk all the time.
Yes.
Right? And you're cutting off. And those other things were distractions, right?
Yeah.
And yet now understanding that if those things are not well, this person cannot be well. But, leave is just one of the things that we think about when we talk about wellness. But and it's not about me, the leader. It's how are we well together.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Those are very good principles that you're practicing as an individual, as an organization. So you've talked about, shared leadership. So distributing power around the team, the principle of care, and, care for myself as an individual, for my team, for all of us.
On that one, I failed, the self one. And my team are always pointing it out to me. Literally, yes, it's one of those gosh, I'm preaching what I'm not doing.
And that's what we need to learn. And like you said, feminist leadership is a journey. So also learning that you're not perfect, right? And the other principle around accountability. And I think that's really important. Accountability to your team, but also them to you, right? And it's also a way of shared power again. But, if you look at, a lot of people would say, this is maybe just for the non-profit sector, right? Feminist leadership. Do you have examples that you've seen either in the private sector or other sectors where feminist leadership is successfully being practiced?
I'm sure there are many, and maybe the beauty with a podcast like Ubuntu Narratives is surfacing those very many places that feminist leadership shows up. One of the places, and I don't know if I have permission to say her name, but she was one of the ambassadors for one of the embassies here. She's since gone on to another tour of duty, but she said very openly that she was a feminist. And luckily, she was also backed up by the fact that her country had also passed a feminist foreign policy. What was she trying to do in her team, and what was the work that we were trying to do with her? It was to talk about decolonizing aid.
Big one.
I know, right? And of course, I could tell a very uncomfortable conversation for her colleagues, but the courage to lean in and say, no, if we are going to walk the talk, there are conversations that we have to have. They might be uncomfortable, and we understand it. We don't shy away from it, because sometimes I think one can present feminist leadership as though it is a smooth sailing, hunky-dory, cloud in, pie in the sky. No, it is hard.
It is
hard work.
But then that means that it's working.
Especially when you're disrupting systems that you've inherited.
Exactly, because
and you're trying
that shows
to do different.
That you're doing something
right.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. So I liked that she had started these conversations. I don't know if they continued with the next ambassador, but for me, that's where it was a person, not just one saying she is, but also trying to show up differently for her team and saying there's a thing we need to do if we are to present ourselves better as a partner in development in a country where we are foreign. Yeah, I liked that. I've also known people in private sector, and it's also not only female. Males can be feminists too. And one of the leaders that I know says it again and again, and in fact demands that his team hold him accountable to his feminist ideals, is Arthur LaRocque. Yes, I know he has said it again, and he's one of those that I know has said it. And has principles by which he's held accountable for feminist leadership. So it's to debunk the myth that it's only women that can be feminist leaders. Absolutely, men as well, because it is about, like we're saying, disrupting the way things were and creating a system that enables things to advance, things to be better, things to be different. Yeah.
If you're And I like that thing about the myth around feminism being just for women. Men can be feminists. Organizations led by feminists can also take up feminist leadership.
Absolutely.
From what you're saying,
yes,
it is the principle around how you lead. How do you challenge the power structures that have been normalized and are oppressive? And how do you bring about a different way of being, of leading, that can include, people and bring different voices to the table? If we look at business specifically, a lot of businesses may say, but I'm here to make profit. How can I embrace feminist leadership or gender transformative leadership in a business where my thing is about profitability, about performance? Are the two opposing? What would you say to that?
I think the world, or feminists at least, are quickly showing that those two are not opposed. That's actually the narrative that profit is only money. If you see profit as people, and I know that now, I think when we hear about the 4 Ps, I'm sure that there were feminists working behind the scenes to enable those in the for-profit, the for-profit sector to see people and planet. People and planet, because that is where feminist leaders are strong, and getting them onto the agenda of a for-profit. So now more and more when you hear, I've forgotten the 4th P, but I know it's profit, people, planet. What is the 4th one? It will come to me. It will come to me. But for me, the fact that people are now aware that they'll be called to account for those other things, and not just are you increasing our profit margin, and seeing for-profit companies as a whole, right? You're not just your profit. Yes, we celebrated it. In fact, we still rank organizations. But when people started to look beyond the profit and say, yes, but how do you treat your staff? How do you treat the people from whom you buy goods? Yes, you're making billions on the stock exchange, but you're extracting labor from children or from poor people, right? When all these movements about, blood diamonds, about labor conditions started to happen, those were feminists at the background saying, we need to create a world where
you put people first. Because people are the center of what you're
right?
doing.
And that the businesses now that are doing well, in fact, center people, not profit. Or are even willing to lose profit, not recklessly, but when it is people and profit, that you are so values aligned that you'll know the right thing to do. Yeah. That in a sense, that what how feminist leadership shows up there and everywhere else is, how do your values lead you and check you? Yeah.
Like Simon Sinek, there's a really famous leadership and management guru, Simon Sinek, who says, what is your why? What is your purpose? Even as a business.
I think purpose, yes.
As a business, what's your purpose? And it should be aligned to, your people as well. How are you bringing value to people, not just in your organization, but those you serve, your clients, and like you're saying, the planet. How are you making the planet? Yes. How are you sustainable? What would you say are some of the challenges that leaders would face, whether they're in business or NGOs or government? When you're practicing feminist leadership, what are some of the challenges that you come into, and because you've practiced it yourself, what are some of the challenges that you face, and how can you, I guess, overcome those challenges?
I think we're still largely working in a dominant system, right? It's not easy to uproot a system that has existed for millennia. Are we trying? Are we pushing back? Absolutely. When you ask that question, I think of a dear friend of mine, feminist to the bone, but who was working in a government ministry where for many years she had experienced sexual harassment, and she tried to fight it legally, socially, like she tried all the ways. In the end, sadly, she was fired, he was promoted. So, and did the organization have a sexual harassment policy? And who has been fighting for institutions to have sexual harassment policies? Feminists, right? Yes. Because it was previously not a thing.
Exactly.
So, we are on the policy front. I think we're making progress, and it's hard-won progress, right? It's not a walk in the park by any means, by any stretch of the imagination. But we still walk in a system that rewards. I was going to say it rewards evil, sadly, because it, and so
it rewards
when
status
female
quo.
MPs raise the issue of sexual harassment, and you just see the ruckus that is created, right? Then you just know that is shutting down that conversation, right? When women in the judiciary is saying, "Oh my goodness," right, to rise in the ranks sometimes, or students, right? So. Yes, are we changing the system through policies, through naming and shaming, through requiring accountability, through voting with our feet or our money? Yes. But does it topple the system? Not always, right?
And
when a powerful movement like Me Too came about, yes, it toppled some, but some of those that it toppled are back right where they began, right? So it's will always be, the battle is not yet won.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is one organization, one leader at a time.
We can't give up.
No, we can't give up. And if you ensure that you're setting the roots, and I hope that that the feminist leadership isn't person to holder, that the next time round when we do another recruitment, we will then hire someone who undoes all the things that so how do we keep holding the line, making sure that for the ones we have secured, let them stay secured. But that too takes work, right? So it's not yet uhuru.
It's not yet. And it's like we keep coming back to it. It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey. It is, like you're saying, one step at a time.
Absolutely.
One leader at a time. Because I think a big thing is how leaders are the ones who set the pace.
Yeah.
To dismantle that system.
Absolutely.
And leaders, whether at the top or wherever you are in the system.
And I know that we've also tried to keep each other accountable. When you were talking, I remembered the what was it called? The ED's forum, right? There were also spaces where sometimes you can't do this journey alone. Are you in community with others trying to dismantle this system so that it's not weighing on them alone?
Yes.
But when you've also been in a system that teaches you to hide your mistakes, hide who you are, hide. So are you coming to these accountability spaces with pretense and therefore not getting to the root of the thing, right? So it's a lot of work, but work that must be done. Yeah.
Wow. That's a good way to end, I think. It is feminist leadership. Some people may know it as gender transformative leadership because gender transformative leadership is also about dismantling power. And like what we've said, it is, we've talked about feminist leadership not as a concept, but as something that is achievable.
Absolutely.
And it is a different way to lead, but it is one that is best for people and the planet. It also improves performance of the team and the organization.
Absolutely.
It improves accountability without people shrinking, without people feeling they're not part
unseen.
They're not seen, they're not included.
Yeah.
Oh, and lots of things to discuss, but I think we'll leave it there. And I hope it has opened a conversation for all of us who are listening to this podcast or viewing us online. We invite you to share your own experiences around feminist leadership or gender transformative leadership. Thank you. And Jackie, thank you so much.
No, thank you too. You've made me think. Oh, wow.
We look forward to seeing you in the next one.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. You can listen to this and past episodes of the Ubuntu Narratives podcast on the Jabali Consulting website at jabaliconsulting.com/podcast or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening to the Ubuntu Narratives podcast by Jabali Consulting. Until next time.